Equifax's new interim CEO just came out with a third official response on behalf of the organization, communicating to stakeholders about the data breach that affected 143 million Americans and people around the world. And my friend Josh Bernoff, who is the editor of withoutbullshit.com, the blog, wrote to me and said, Melissa, why does it seem to take organizations multiple attempts at communicating in a crisis before they actually get their communications right? And I thought, that is a good question. Let's explore that, shall we? Josh is right. Sometimes it does seem to take, especially the bigger organizations with the biggest crises, multiple attempts at communicating before they get it right. And there is such thing as a crisis response penalty. So that is, the longer you take to respond appropriately in a crisis, the more impact the crisis is going to have on the organization from a financial position. So we saw this with United Airlines when Dr. Dow was dragged off the plane. It took United 2 days to come out with an official response that was actually appropriate after multiple attempts, and it cost them $1.4 billion in stock price over the course of those 2 days. So if we do just this fast and loose equation, then their CRP, their crisis response penalty, you can look at it and say that that was a $700 million per day mistake. So why does it take organizations so long to come out with an accurate response, especially since they need to do it anyways, because that's the only way to regain control of the narrative of a situation and to actually begin to reestablish or rebuild or strengthen trust and credibility with your key stakeholders. So you have no choice. So why is it taking so long? The reason, for the most part, is that it's because organizations aren't prepared ahead of time. That's it. You cannot respond or manage a crisis effectively in this day and age with all of the impacts and effects and challenges and obstacles that a crisis has on an organization without prior being prepared for it. And this goes back to being crisis ready and building an invincible brand. You cannot do this without understanding what your high-risk scenarios are. Your high-risk scenarios are the most likely types of high-impact crises that risk striking your organization. What are those? 2 is, what are the effects, the obstacles, the challenges that your organization is going to face in the event of any one of those high-risk scenarios? 3, what do your stakeholders expect? How are you going to manage these crises behind the scenes, and how are you going to meet the expectations of your stakeholders at the forefront of the scenes in the initial moments, the initial hours, the initial days of a breaking crisis? If you haven't thought through these processes prior to a crisis striking, how can you expect to communicate effectively and to manage the crisis effectively simultaneously when all of it is happening and unfolding in real time? You can't. And that is why organizations that are not crisis ready fail so miserably at their initial crisis response, and it takes them multiple tries before they get it right. So come on, people. If you don't want to suffer CRP, crisis response penalty, and if you want to make sure that you will not lose credibility and trust with the people who matter most to your business in the event of an unforeseen or an unexpected crisis, do your work now. Become crisis ready and build yourself an invincible brand. There's no excuse. Are you a smart organization who wants to be crisis ready and who wants to build an invincible brand? Subscribe to my channel to get more videos like this, and let's continue this conversation.